All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Fruits Basket, Season 3, Episode 4. Oh, man.
Rin's been taken.
Yep.
Okay, this is just the way things are, I guess.
Right.
We are entering into a post-high school situation for at least one character at the moment. She graduated. Kagura made some comments. Shigure made some
comments.
Also freakier kind of comments about not putting your nose where it doesn't belong.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Sniffer. You use yours.
Right,
Always
exactly.
in the most, business-like manner.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. Rin has been taken, but the real question in my mind is why? Because other than maybe to keep her at the Soma estate, Kyo was more of the one that had that looming over his head, so what's the deal here? Yeah.
But y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Victory!
We have victory! Oh man,
this was so cathartic.
I have wanted the threat of death to be levied at Akito for a long time now. And
and you got it.
And I got it, and it felt so nice. Like, of course, in this show,
won't you love me?
Both tonally and mechanically with the curse, obviously that is not how this is going to be resolved.
No.
But that is something that, from a character standpoint, would absolutely end up being on the table.
Yes.
Right. As hey, this is really fucked up. Mm-hmm. There is a permanent solution to this,
Right.
So, okay, yeah, and Rin's back home.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Tadaima.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
And the idea that, Akito would use the cage because Rin is so persistent in trying to break the curse and just
she's free. She doesn't ever get confined
right
throughout all the times that she's wandering about, going wherever she wants,
and being openly rebellious. Far as any of the characters go that
are the Zodiacs,
that have the most fuck you Akito energy. I'll do whatever I want. Yeah. Rin is probably
pretty high up there.
Pretty high up
the highest, yeah.
Yeah, so that combined with the whole complicated situation with Akito's mother and the fact that maybe, there are a couple characters, including Akito, that see the similarities and, and then, just makes Akito in general very, very angry with her. It makes sense that something like this would happen. And Akito knew not to tell Kureno about it. Mm-hmm. That's something that I find very interesting.
Me too, yeah.
Because the real problem in this situation would be people knowing that she's been taken, right? Okay, yeah, sure. But Akito, if you have absolute control over the people that are around you,
Kureno's outside the curse. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But if Akito has done a lot of things to try and build a different kind of bond other than the curse with Kureno, you do all the things that I tell you, I keep you close to me, all of those sorts of things. And yet Akito knew that maybe this would be more than they would be able to be willing to put up with, right?
Yeah.
So I love that because it is Akito admitting to herself the limitations of her own power, influence, manipulation, etc. And that's awesome. And yet, the situation was resolved the episode after it happened, so we don't have to spend multiple episodes getting stressed out and worrying over what's going to happen. It's a scary thing. It happened, but now it's done.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Fuck Akito. The fact that this is something that's effectively happened twice, that Akito has tried to kill Rin multiple times now.
Yep.
I think warrants another look at the idea that there's something that connects her and Ren, A little bit more. I will say the naming convention is
very similar.
The hair is the same. The Akito hatred is the same,
and even the Ren hatred is there. And there is the potential obvious answer of like, okay,
I mean, they literally called her a whore this episode.
Well,
that was who they were talking about.
No, right?
Ren.
Yeah, they were talking about Ren. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But as for why Ren hates Rin, you know, I've always disliked that child. You know.
Okay, but why do you think that, like, that's... Okay, but hold on. I'm trying to bring up how this is something where Rin is potentially actually, like, Ren's daughter. Like that's actually... They're actually related.
Okay.
Like, that's on the table. Like, that's absolutely on the table.
Sure.
I think there's totally a thing of where you could go into what Ren feels about this, but Ren is such a not character right now.
Right.
All we know about her is that she has history, and we are yet to get fully into
she's
it.
She's Akito's mom, and she's a cold bitch. Like,
and she
that's about it.
Fucked up Akito, but like we have literally like
okay.
I don't know. Just do you see there being like a
possibility
with that? Yeah,
them being sisters. Yeah,
sisters
of Akito and
sorry. Yeah,
and Rin. Yeah,
right.
Not Rin and Ren.
No.
Yeah, being sisters or potentially at the very least just child of Ren.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. It's something where when I think about all the characters in this show, there's not a lot of them that look similar at all to Akito or Ren other than Rin.
Yeah.
So
true.
You know, and or even like similar to each other if they're like, you know, if they're not related, you know. So like I could see that.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like it kind of boils down to whether or not we're going to have additional sort of like twists in the show with regards to Rin specifically, because
it'd be a Ren twist in a way. Because
sure, but like
Rin didn't choose that.
No. But it's a part of her connection with the way that she was interacting with Ren and stuff. I feel like she at the very least wouldn't know maybe that she's Ren's child.
Right. I 100% am in the she doesn't know. She was raised by people that hated her.
Sure.
And I will say that is very common, more likely than
that could
times where you have parents that just end up resenting the children that they either adopt or foster.
Well,
it's really fucked up. But,
but then also on top of that, that was the only situation that we know of where a Zodiac was put into the care of different parents from the get-go.
Yeah.
So, that I could definitely see that being the case.
I think this has been a thing that I've been thinking about for a while, but I think this episode they just went and were like, we're nailing it right in the head. We're even choosing to call Ren specifically a whore, and it's like, okay, that's a really like specific kind of insult.
I feel like
here.
But I feel like that could there could be plenty enough motivation, reason on the part of the people levying the insult just from the fact that she slept with Shigure. Like if Akito is the head of the family and is kind of controlling the narrative, that is all I would see Akito needing in order to think of her mother as a whore, right? And then by proxy, other people at the estate refer to her as such. Okay, rarely do I feel like that insult is one that is actually like, not that it would ever be warranted, but like it's usually blowing out of proportion what actually happened, I feel like, you know?
Yes, yeah.
So,
but it's usually, in this case, in the story-wise, levied against someone that has slept with someone outside of their relationship, basically, someone that cheats, basically. And in this case, we know that she's done that already.
Right.
We know that Shigure and her got it on, regardless of who we're going to, put into the power position dynamic here.
And,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact
Rin is too old to be Shigure's daughter.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm saying, I think that at this point here, we're setting up even more Ren backstory.
Sure. Okay. And that's how it could be.
Because they're talking about the father as well.
Right. And that could, because it's not that I think these things couldn't happen. I'm more of trying to see the rhyme and reason of what it then adds to the story. Because here, I feel like Rin's story is for the most part resolved. Her and Haru have had their closure and everything. Haru has started to have the curse be broken, which is what Rin was after in the first place. So, like, while that could theoretically be put on pause until the end of the show when something happens that maybe breaks all their curses or something like that, they don't necessarily need to be focused on anymore from here on out.
But that's the thing. I'm not talking about Hatsuharu and Rin. I'm talking about the dynamic with the Zodiac, specifically with Ren, which was the main other thing focused on here outside of the...
And from the standpoint of Ren backstory, I totally think that makes a lot of sense and could be a great way to set up backstory for Ren before we actually get to it, because given that Ren was kind of introduced this season, and given that she is a very important character from a plot standpoint, right? We want to have it feel like a lot of the season revolves around her, even though economically we do need to have time spent on all the other characters that need to have their arcs resolved. So if we have through lines for Ren in their resolutions, there you go. That can build it up nicely.
But okay, if you weren't done talking about that, that's cool. The through line of connecting Hiro and Kisa with Haru and Rin, though, was really cool.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
It's something where I feel like with a lot of the complicated issues that the characters get up to in this show, you don't know what your own... You can't really see your own situation because you're in the middle of it. But when you see someone who's going through something similar, then that can be like that extra fresh perspective of like, oh, I'm literally seeing it outside of myself.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. I have been carrying that guilt. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. What am I going to do about that? You know.
Right.
But
yeah, that was a cool way to have Hiro, who's been a character that's been slowly growing every time we get to see him. He's a little bit more improved. He's a little bit more self-aware, and we're seeing him here being comfortable enough talking about a lot of the things that he's kept inside, because it's, like you were saying, from someone outside of him, and that being something where he never told Haru all this time about what happened to Rin.
Yeah.
Like, I was kind of shocked that had never been brought up. I thought that was why too. Haru kind of had this, like, kind of blasé approach to Akito, was kind of a thing of like, oh yeah, no,
Right, and that's one of the tough things, is that if you have a character doing the kinds of things that Akito has done, how do you have any kind of semi non-violent coexistence with that person, right? Like even if it's in this crazy like God Zodiac curse, kind of dynamic here, if the person that you are serving tried to kill the person that you love, that's kind of gonna mess things up.
You
don't forget that, you don't let that get smoothed over or whatever.
But didn't you find it weird that he hadn't brought that up ever?
If anything,
like, what was the reason that he gave?
I don't know if he necessarily gave a reason
either.
Like, I think the implied reason would be that he also would be afraid of Akito, and that Akito could then take it out on him or Kisa, right? And so Haru, I think, did a great job of covering for that by being like, oh, an oracle told me, right? But even then, I feel like that's something where Akito would be able to figure it out, because Akito would know who knows about that, and so then it's like, okay, even if you weren't the one who told him, you must have let the information get out, right? And then as a result of that, Haru knows, so
it feels like this is maybe a thing of where the reason why it's being told now is a bit of a thing of where they don't really have, I guess, a lot of relationship. Haru and Hiro, but it is one of those things of where we have seen them like quite a bit before, and it's one of the biggest like obvious like secrets of the Zodiac set up that Rin and Haru are a thing.
Right.
Like everyone knows
worst kept secret.
Yeah, worst kept secret. Everyone knows.
Yep.
So maybe it's just a thing of where Hiro has been a bit, like you were saying, more closed off and like thinking about maybe Kisa in that instance.
And to be fair, given that Hiro was dealing with a lot of guilt, it makes sense that that could be the motivating reason for why he doesn't tell anybody, because if he already feels guilt for what happened with Kisa because
he spoke up, because he didn't keep his mouth shut, basically.
Right, just because he was kind of involved, right? You know, he did something that gave Akito potential fuel to get mad and take it out on Kisa.
Well, in the episode, he said that he spoke up, basically, that he felt bad because he ended up, as I think he said, I let my big mouth open or something like that.
Right. It was a while since we saw their backstory, so I don't remember the exact details, but I want to say it might have been something where, like, well, no, because
that was him basically talking about talking about this stuff here. I'm sorry to you too. Yeah, Akito and Rin both told me to keep my mouth shut, and I did. Right. That was the reason for why he didn't tell Haru about being pushed off the balcony.
Because Rin also told him to not say anything, right? Because she didn't want to be a burden to Haru.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because she's doing all of this stuff of trying to figure out how to break the curse and things like that. Knows that it's going to draw Akito's ire, doesn't want it to fall on Haru. Both people basically are wanting to protect each other, and as a result, they, there's less communication than, might be helpful. And that's what we got here.
Yeah, and this is also another like really cool instance of paralleling even what Rin is doing to the point where she feels guilty about her actions being something that could hurt the people around her by consequence of the people that she's antagonizing being psychopathic, violent abusers. So there's that as well. But this is really cool in that all four of them have their own perception of where they feel guilty here because of a lack of involvement in someone else's situation or a presence of involvement that someone else has in their situation. Like even Kisa, once she's heard this, she drops the bag and is like, well, wait a minute. You've been keeping this up all this time. You've been holding all that pain.
Yeah, because even if Hiro
she starts to apologize,
right, because even if Hiro was doing it because he felt guilty, well, you're kind of then, as a result of being too stuck in your own situation to see what it looks like from the outside, the very thing that you are suffering from as a result of what happened, you are now making it so that the person that you care about suffers as well, because you're not sharing in your suffering with them. And so then, when they find out that you've been doing that and that you didn't feel like you could tell them or that it would be a good idea to tell them or whatever, you were keeping them at a distance in that way, that hurts a lot.
Yeah, and that's a really fascinating thing to have these kids going through, because these are probably the youngest Zodiac members that we have, I think.
I believe so. Yeah.
I think Kagura. No, not Kagura. No,
they are by far the youngest.
They're the youngest.
Right, even Momiji is surprisingly, old for his looks. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm not adding Rin into this specifically. I'm talking about the trio. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, for sure. Right. And having them all dealing with this element of relationships, which is people will intentionally withhold information because they believe that the pain of the person knowing is worse than the pain of the person sharing in the burden and being able to be there for them. And there's a very false kind of compassion, I would say, that a lot of people have, where they think that they're being selfless by not sharing this kind of thing because it demands a response from people if you share that you're hurting. But that's what emotion is that it is a signal to your internal state.
Yep.
By signaling, you are giving people access to that inner part of you so that they can be there for you. Now, obviously, people can be assholes and abuse that.
Yep.
And in this family, abuse is pretty common.
And people can also feel burdened by that. That is definitely a possibility.
Sure, yeah.
But it's a show of bad faith, basically, in the people that you're interacting with if you don't give them the opportunity when deep down you know that they would want to.
Especially if they're someone that's also close to you. One of the things that's really important in these kinds of relationships is that relationships aren't always equal. One of the things that's very, very common is for someone to have an unequal value of a relationship that the other person just doesn't have. So when you share something that's really personal and deep to you, it can get kind of a mediocre response. So it's not that they reject you, it's that they basically don't treat gingerly the sensitivities and the feelings of what you're sharing, and that can be just as painful as them rejecting it, because then it's the thing of where, oh, shit, wait, have I not been aware of how the relationship is imbalanced? And imbalance in relationships is okay, because relationships are constantly in flux, and there's little steps that everyone makes in different things there. But isn't this cool that they're having Hiro, the character that we probably hated the most on their, like, not Akito, of course, but in their immediate introduction. Well, and now having these moments,
and even following a bit after his introduction, because like he didn't.
Well, he didn't show up back again for a while after he was introduced.
I guess that's fair, but he still took a while to change and to work on what he needed to work on. But now we get to see him having worked on all that, and he's a much healthier and more whole person than he was back then. And able to deal with his own shit, and as a result of that, hey, you're able to get closer to the people you care about.
And also, he ended up helping big time in this setup here, because while Haru would go apeshit the second he heard anyone say that, that they touched Rin in any kind of aggressive or malevolent way, obviously, he's fucking Haru. He's Haru for crying out loud. Yeah. My man would go and get brass knuckles if he thought it would help,
Yep.
But Hiro, in this instance, essentially, by being told by Rin and Akito that this was something that he should shut up about and not do, and I'm glad I went back and checked, because I would have been a little bit... I'm glad that's in my head right now, because sometimes you'll watch a Fruits Basket episode, y'all, and you'll get so focused on like specific things that you'll miss like a little bit of dialogue there, even though you clearly saw it.
Right.
Is that by doing this, he is essentially bringing Kisa into his struggle here. Kisa could end up getting into some shit.
She would probably be the primary target.
Of... Yes, exactly. By extension of Hiro potentially being punished for doing this as a betrayal of Akito.
Right.
Who do you think Akito would hurt first if she wanted to punish Hiro?
Yep.
And the fact that he's like, no, I believe that not only this is the right thing to do, obviously, like that's one of the things at the forefront of his mind. But he's also doing this in full view with Kisa right there, as like, no, we'll do whatever we do together.
Exactly.
Like, I'm very excited about these two surviving this whole nonsense, because I would say if there was any character that I was legitimately worried about when they went into the whole abuse situation with Kisa that would be potentially a target again, like, for more abuse from Akito, it wasn't Rin, like, in that instance. It was Kisa, basically, because Kisa is the small, cute little girl, and it's like, God, like,
putting it another way, if Akito's feeling low, she can always go after an easy target.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, though, that this is one of those things that, again, makes earlier parts of Fruits Basket, where you had characters specifically letting Kisa be beaten in this way, make less sense, because Haru, with no curse being broken, went and, not in the midst of it happening, to be fair, but basically went and declared war on Akito.
Right. Now,
we don't know the consequences still, because nothing has happened yet.
Right. The biggest beneficial factors, I think for previous scenes in hindsight, is that, one, the biggest offender of the person that does nothing was Shigure.
Yes.
And we cannot trust Shigure.
No.
So that helps. No. And then
yeah.
2, it would be people that were like very close to Akito and kind of like very much directly on his payroll. So like Hattori or
yeah,
something
I think
like that,
Hattori
right?
was right there in the room.
Right. And that's
yeah,
you know, it's still a thing, but
yeah.
okay. And then also there's not necessarily a spread of information, right? We as the audience see all of the events that Akito does, but given that the family is going to try and keep things hush-hush, people that weren't physically there probably well might just don't know, right?
Yes.
Apparently Shigure didn't even know about, I want to say it was Kisa, until it ended up coming up in the first season or something like that, because he just wasn't there, and then he went to Akito, and it was this whole tense conversation.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and rewatch that part.
I remember that in particular being a thing, because back when I thought that I was supposed to trust Shigure a lot more, I was really bothered by the fact that he didn't seem to be doing anything, and then I was like, oh, yeah, he didn't actually know. Okay.
Yeah.
Phew. You know,
right. But... Okay. Kureno, though. Fucking Kureno.
Yep.
This is what it's like to be outside of the bounds of the Zodiac curse.
Right.
And I also really love that we saw someone who wasn't a Zodiac afflicted essentially by the same curse by, like, going to feed Rin. Kureno's like, what are you doing? And you can see that she's so chained up by this power of this family, basically, where it's like, oh, if... you know, she ends up falling out of favor, who knows what'll happen to her?
Right.
Will she get, like, flung to the street, and basically maybe there's some kind of way in which there's like an umbilical cord kind of support structure where it's like, oh, if you're a member of the family and you are a good member of the family, your social credit stays high, and we don't take all your assets, basically.
Well, and she mentioned specifically that her father was indebted to Akito, and that makes me wonder whether it was just like general social indebtedness, or like, no, the mortgage on our house is done through the Soma family or something. And,
well, they literally live on the estate, because there's a bunch of people that aren't, you know, Soma or Zodiac or anything that are just there, you know.
So then it's like, oh yeah, what do you do if, you know, Akito just decides, yeah, you don't get to be here anymore, you're homeless, right? What do you do about that?
What do you do? Yeah.
Even more so if, like, you're not just living here, but maybe you're employed by the estate.
Oh,
right?
I think 100%
like,
what it is.
Right,
yeah.
because like, economically, it makes sense that a lot of that kind of stuff would happen, and then all of a sudden,
insular.
Oh wait, you're out of a home and you're out of a job, and what happens there?
Yeah, it's very cult-like. It's really cool, though, to see it from Kureno's perspective, because he's so free that he's not even worried about what this girl will say. Like, if she, like, turns against him to defend herself, basically.
Nope.
He's like, no. I'm actually, like, completely safe. Which is crazy, because in a lot of ways, Kureno, you're not safe.
Well,
like, all it would take is for Akito and Obasan to ski-knife a little bit, and ski-knife, you know? Like, well, I mean...
The thing is, I feel like Kureno is, maybe this isn't this isn't accurate, and
I can see where your mind is going, but I want to hear you say it.
He is the most Chad power bottom ever. Like
I love when I can see this twinkle in your eye, and I'm like, oh, I know where he's going.
Yeah.
I know where he's going with this.
Because there's something, so there's something that can happen where you're in a dynamic where things could potentially go badly. You could theoretically be being used, taken advantage of, whatever.
Okay.
And this doesn't work in all situations by any stretch. But you can reach that point where it's the, so what? And like, it's
so what?
Like it ends up being something where you can use it almost like an armor of a sorts, where it's the, okay, cool, if that's happening, what else do you have?
Oh.
Right? Because Akito is a one-trick pony, right? And
as far as, well...
Yeah, I mean, as far as what we've seen so far...
Kureno could, yeah.
Right. So if Akito can't use the... Well, okay, two-trick pony. There's the actual curse, and then there's the societal,
weaponize the
economic
estate,
influence of the estate,
and I
right?
put you into a locked, room designed for the cat.
Yeah.
Because I can.
The curse has no effect on Kureno. Kureno also is the kind of person that I don't feel fears the estate one bit.
Okay, so then in that instance, yeah, because Kureno is basically the one person trying to save Akito, trying to save this scared little girl from basically this oppressive system that Akito was born into.
And is now perpetuating.
And is absolutely perpetuating, but Kureno is Suzaku, basically, here. Is trying to say, like, no, I will stay as close as possible to the evil so that I can mitigate it.
And because Akito also loves Kureno in a different way than the rest of the Zodiacs, not just because of the curse being broken, but because she is romantically in love with Kureno.
Well, not just that. She can tell that he actually does care about her on some level.
Oh, yeah.
Even if this is something where, from Akito's twisted perspective, right? Because of the obligation that the Zodiacs have to her through the curse, the bond, and all that, there's an element of this where Akito might not be able to distinguish, levels of relationship and what have you.
And I would say that's probably where a lot of the issues come from.
Totally.
Is that then even just being romantically in love with someone, well, that's competing with me then.
Right.
No,
Akito.
If you think Hatsuharu would ever have a thing for you, you are delusional, my friend.
Dumb as fuck.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But Kureno, though, breaks all these rules.
Exactly.
Shows a different side of things where Kureno can be like, no, Akito, I care about you, so I'm not going to let you do that.
It's the wholesome version of what Akito is trying to use to twist against the people of the family, where it's because Akito has chosen to, in a way, curse herself and tie herself to Kureno because she loves him, right? So now Kureno's like, hey, I am in a lot of ways perfectly safe because even if Akito could theoretically get the estate to lock me in a box, then bam, that connection's severed. The one connection that Akito has, because the curse is broken with Kureno, is then gone. So that is an option that in my mind, I think that in Kureno's mind, Kureno knows that is completely off the table. Right.
And then this all ties back ultimately in a weird way to Shigure, because in some ways, Shigure is kind of in this situation because of some stuff where you could say that Shigure, in his own twisted way, kind of wants what Kureno has, but also wants Akito to not be so, like, just completely, like, obsessed and
Shigure, ironically enough, is a whole bag of cats.
Yes.
And
But it feels like in some ways, the more and more we talk about Kureno, it's like, why aren't Kureno and Shigure actually, like, allies that hate each other kind of thing?
Well, like, entirely because Shigure is obsessed with Akito to the point that he would bang Akito's mom as a revenge bang because she slept with Kureno.
I'm not saying that Shigure is rational 100% of the time. I'm saying that Shigure kind of wants, if we look at Shigure in the best possible way, he wants something kind of similar to what Kureno wants, but they're coming at it from the different, personal standpoint.
Right. It reminds me of, like, Magneto and Xavier, right? Where it's like, okay, yes, they could play chess together and, like, talk and stuff.
They both want freedom for mutant kind.
Right. But they are so... They do things in ways that is so completely antithetical to the existence of the other person that they could never actually team up, right? But, in the same way that Shigure is possessive of Akito, imagine how Kureno sees Shigure, knowing how fucked up he is and everything, and the ways in which he is trying to get back at Akito.
I think Kureno is this is another thing I just want to bring up. I think Kureno is now actually legitimately in danger. I will just say, like, just because of this episode. I think he's legitimately, his life is in danger. But I want to bring up something. I think he doesn't, like, blame or, like, hold ill will against other members of the Zodiac because they're suffering something he was broken free of by pure coincidence and chance. So, that's why I almost feel like, in some ways, like, Kureno, if you're willing to do this, like, if you're willing to stand up, stand against Akito in this kind of instance there because it was so dramatic, I feel like he would be willing to maybe he's just scared of Shigure. Like make a like an offering or a meeting, like, Shigure. Please just talk to me. I want to know what you want.
You are doing things that are hurting the girl that I care about, so, you know, let's figure something out at the very least of how to be enemies in a way that is mutually beneficial and having some rules of
I'll lay my cards on the table. You don't have to lay any cards on. I'm initiating this. I know you hate
Chad
me.
Power Bottom. You know, like,
true. True.
You can't dominate someone who's already gotten on their back. Like you know, like don't take that out of context.
That was like Jacob 2022 comments. Like I need that on a t-shirt.
I love Kureno so much. Like, because he absolutely just takes all the power away from the people that would want to abuse it because he gives it to them, basically. Right? And then it's like, well wait, hold on a second.
I wanted to hurt you.
Yeah, I wanted to hurt you. Well, sorry, it's not hurting. You can do the thing, but... And then it's just...
I mean, and to be fair, that's literally just Akito. Like, there's nobody else. Because Shigure and him don't, like, interact much at all. Like, it's just that phone call, really.
Yeah. And I feel like, straight up, I feel like that could be the place from which the curse ended up getting broken for Kureno in the first place. Could it have just been pure happenstance?
Yes.
Some weird fluke that happened? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I like what that does for the story if it's just a
and the
random
curse
fluke.
is meant to be broken eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if it was something where Kureno basically achieved a state of nirvana that was a very quiet, subtle thing, right?
Okay.
Where he basically just let go of the curse.
He let go of attachments.
Right, exactly. And then as a result of that, the curse just disappears, right?
The curse is like, there's no ego here.
Right.
There's no id.
And he would not be able to tell anyone how it happened because he probably wouldn't even see it as being that big of a thing in the first place.
I mean, he felt it.
No, the curse breaking, but the state of mind that, if it was a state of mind that led to the curse breaking, it would probably just be part of his nature and who he is.
For sure.
And so that's not something that's necessarily duplicatable because you can't, you either have the curse broken or you're not me, right? Like that doesn't work, you know?
Yeah, I got that.
So...
Yeah. I think also this is just an interesting thing about us speculating about something that clearly is, and I take this y'all with just a clear understanding that I understand why the indirection is needed through the fantasy medium of the story, but this is a story that doesn't need the curse in order to be a very powerful emotional story.
Right.
In a lot of ways, the curse is basically a thing that's thrown in here to make this a little bit spicier and zestier. But it's
same with the animal transformations.
Well, okay, sure. I would say that the curse is even far less important than the transformations. I feel like the transformations are very much as a way to, you could have it be you see inside their other self,
right?
Their shadow,
their spirit animal or whatever.
Well, right. They're like the personality shadow kind of thing.
Yeah.
But having it be, okay, there are things where they have to basically fight the oppressive hold of a familial system that keeps them from being able to live their lives freely. It is something where Kureno kind of needed to be in the story in this capacity. This story needed somebody outside of the curse.
And it's interesting.
And it's just interesting to think about in that I feel like it's also pointing at the thing of where I would have liked to see the story that this creator would have done where there was no curse, because it would have been way more nuanced and a lot more like
I think
they would have got really dark stuff basically with that.
I think curse is it's very effective as a shorthand, though, to make this story more accessible to people, because the reasons in which people could be in a situation that's abusive and they don't do anything, that can be very hard for someone to understand if they haven't been in those situations or aren't familiar with those situations. And so being able to say, there's a curse, right? That we don't even oftentimes see the direct behavior shifts of. It's just sort of like, that's the reason for why people haven't been doing anything, right? And that's, like, you could absolutely take a real life abusive situation and take the inaction that people, the inaction that people do in those situations as a form of a curse, right?
Totally.
Like where it's just it's a non-physical thing that you can't necessarily explain or touch, and yet it keeps you trapped, right?
Sure.
And so being able to break free of that curse, whether literal or metaphorical, is a very powerful story to tell. And so in this situation, make it a mechanical technical curse, right? But we know that it's all going to end up being based on like the emotions of the characters. It's not going to be some true love's kiss kind of a thing, I mean, well, okay, maybe. I mean, it could be. It could be.
There's been set up in a lot of ways to not have it be a true love's kiss kind of thing. But in some ways, a baton passing that happened a while ago between two not brother boys, who one of them might have left a technical thing for how the other one won without making it super obvious.
I hope that ends up happening.
Because if that's the technical, little funky thing as to how
science, bitch.
You have no power here, Akito the Gray. I would love that shit.
You need to trap a magic genie, and you're like, how do we do it? We need a jar somewhere. And then you're like,
layers of indirection.
Well, how about that door? What about the door? It's open, right? Yes, so it's a jar. We have everything we need, like just some crazy mind games like the kind you'd see in some sort of Fey bargain type deal.
Oh, that's great. Yes. But okay. All right. Very happy episode.
Yes.
Very scary episode. Cool little combo bit of bringing in quite a few members of the Zodiac into the character focus here. And no Toru, no Yuki,
that's right.
Kyo.
Yeah.
In some ways, this is a very obvious sign that this is the final season. It's very much
everybody.
We're wrapping up character storylines that are ones that are personal and intimate and don't really affect the main cast in any immediate sense. So, very cool stuff. And all right, more built up for Ren-related focus eventually. Boy. But thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.